you got to 3 million and you still got 50% staff turnover.
Right.
Don't go to 6.
Yeah.
Don't
pump the brakes.
Pump the brakes.
Yeah.
And look back. My suggestion to others are just recognize what makes you feel at ease. Just do a little bit more of that. So it'll help.
Right. And I think it's a big thing to recognize, and whether you're young or old or at a million or 10, those are important things to take care of yourself and your family, obviously. Creating time for yourself is a big one.
Yeah.
And it's a hard one when you're the guy. Hey guys, we're in beautiful Miami again. We're wrapping up the Leadscaper event today. We're joined by Ryan Markowitz. Ryan has been a longtime owner of Creative Roots in Kelowna, BC. Super interesting history, has an amazing career. He's built an amazing business. And let's maybe start off just talking about the event itself. I mean, it's been an amazing 3 days.
Yeah.
Big takeaways?
There's just so much help. There's just so much help. And I think about the 30 years. There was all the business books, and good business has always been good business, and treating people right has always been the right thing to do and all that stuff. But in the midst of trying to go out and shovel every day, mow the lawns and do all that stuff, it's hard to stay focused on it. And I think a platform like Leadscaper is just giving people that tool. It's an excavator.
Yes.
It's a shovel. It's a skid steer. It's a tool, and it's a really powerful one. And it's the first operating system for business that is focused solely on landscaping business. And I believe that what Mark and the team has done is included so much education with it, as opposed to a lot of other operating systems that exist. But there's a lot of education behind it.
Right.
And that is just, the value there is just ridiculous.
I agree. The speakers have been great as well. You sat on a panel yesterday. That was a fun one.
It was.
But yeah, a lot of great speakers, great event, beautiful setting. Let's dive in a little bit more into Creative Roots, kind of your history. I know you're doing a lot of coaching now. You're into real estate. You're slowly backing your way out of the business, but still supporting it.
Yeah.
But maybe tell everybody a little bit about your journey.
Sure. So I started with a shovel and a lawnmower, drop money, pay the rent, that type of stuff. And I saw opportunity. And I was always into the growth mindset. I always thought that it was up to me, right? So you started listening to Jim Rohn and Brian Tracy and all those guys when I was 15. And they were back on cassette tapes.
Right.
And not one cassette tape, like 8 cassette tapes for one seminar,
Yes.
So we're aging ourselves here. But I just saw more and more opportunity. And then, I enjoyed my clients. I liked what they did. And I asked them questions. And they would give me advice. And it just kind of grew. You saw the advice.
Right.
And then I ran into the same thing. We got into $1.3 million or so in sales in about 2005, getting in some pretty big projects, in the $300,000 range back then. And I couldn't keep people. And, someone said to me, "They're leaving you or they're leaving the business?" And I said, "Well,
Yeah.
The light bulb went off, and and I had lots of really good people, people that were better at doing the work and doing the things that I needed to do than me. I was the most insane one. I would sleep in my car and eat crap dinner if I had to. That's what an entrepreneur does.
Right.
No matter what it takes. So that was part of it, and we grew, and we're just shy of 4 million, so it's not a very big company, but we really told ourselves that we would grow internally to the point that when we decided to push and scale, when we felt we were ready for that we would have better problems rather than bigger ones.
Right. Yeah, no, it's been amazing getting to know some of the team too, because the buy-in that you got is incredible.
It's off the charts. It's proud. I feel really proud to sit back in one of those monthly meetings and listen to the whole team.
Right.
And they're open to everybody in the company, whether you've been there a week or 20 years. And just hear them reporting on the things that they have decided collectively are important to focus on, because what gets talked about gets done.
Yes.
Right? Those all are providing line of sight to the larger critical number. That critical number is providing line of sight to a longer term objective, and they get it.
Right.
We're not all the same, but for the most part, we're on the same page.
Right. Is being an entrepreneur something you kind of knew you wanted to do for a long time, or was it like always a bit of a passion, or kind of on the back burner before you got going?
I never really thought about it, but to think back, yeah, sure. I need some extra money. Family was, very modest, and they were in financial trouble when I was young, and so to get a job mowing the lawn for for a little old lady with an
Right.
electric mower, and it ran over the court.
Very common.
That came out of my $7 a week or a month
Allowance?
mowing contract.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But no, I just really subscribe to the notion that you're in control and you have to do something about it.
Right.
It doesn't mean you can't work with somebody else. I think that's great too. But I just really have never, other than some, I was a dishwasher. One of my favorite jobs for a company or a restaurant was owned by the Hudson's Bay. So I had some fun doing that stuff too.
Right.
But ultimately, I just ended up starting a business around it.
Well, and it's interesting because I feel like that is ultra common in the industry. We all start out as good tradespeople or good field workers, and at some point, you evolve from being an owner-operator to an entrepreneur.
Fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the myth.
Right.
That is the entrepreneurial myth, right? And after reading that book and sitting on the beach in Mexico 20-odd years ago, after reading it for the 10th time probably,
Right.
I really closed my eyes and I just had this vision of what the company would look like at a certain point in the future, and I spelled it out, by person, by
Right.
division, by their wage, what those people could create in revenue, and I spelled it all out, what they would be wearing, what the day looked like, what the vehicles looked like, and I created that vivid image in my mind of what it would look like. And the company was about 60 people
Right.
at that point. I'm not driving the train anymore,
Right.
but that vision is still there.
Well, let's talk about that. It's a good transition actually into, one, how did you get started and what motivated you to do the open book? And then sort of that transition from making employees owners.
Right. Okay. So I never really thought I had to go at it alone. I don't think I ever had this notion that I hear from other owners like, no, this is my thing. I will always own it. You hell bent before I let anybody own part of it. I never really thought about it. I was just always kind of open to whatever,
Right.
wherever the wind took me. But I was struggling for sure to keep on top of things at that $1.3 million. What systems did we have? At that point, It wasn't until 2008 that we actually had a professional join our crew and build a full operation.
Right.
And I look at that now, looking back and saying, well, we were way ahead of our years in that. But anyways, I was complaining to a friend like I did every couple of weeks in Vancouver, and
As we all do.
oh yeah, he'd get the every 2-week call, and all you'd hear on the other end is me saying I'm out. Right? It's like, okay, how many more 100-hour weeks do you work in a row, Ryan? And I said, well, probably a lot, but I don't want to. And he said, well, what would happen if you just cut back? And what happens if you just did 800,000 next year, 900,000? Would you make enough to keep food on the table? Absolutely. He said, well, what do you suggest? I said, well, we'll get 20 copies. He said, how many people are in your company? I said, 20 people. How many people would come to the meetings? Probably all of them. I said, get 20 copies of this book, and then you guys do your homework. It's just read a chapter a week. You have a 1-hour meeting a week, and all you talk about is that chapter. That's it. If people didn't read it, that's fine. They would learn in the meeting. The people that did read it, they bring up what they liked, their concerns, and all that stuff. That book was The Great Game of Business. The Great Game of Business with Jack Stack and that whole team are arguably the pioneers of open book management.
Right.
They didn't coin the phrase, but they are the leading authority in open book management, and they have been for 40 years. So I said, wow, this makes a lot of sense. So we started learning how to run a meeting that was more effective. And a KPI, what's a KPI, right? Like, who knew this shit? And so I got invited down to Springfield, Missouri, where their headquarters are still to this day. And I did a 3-day get in the game workshop type thing. I said, I can't run it this way. I don't want to run it.
Right.
And so I came back, hired a coach, and ever since then we've just been playing the game.
Right.
And like any game, the longer you play it, the better you get.
Absolutely.
So that's it.
It's a cool journey. Like, maybe you can speak a little bit to how you sort of started to implement it and how you started to introduce it. Like, was it a very strategic approach, or was it bits and pieces at a time? Like, I'm assuming it would be overwhelming to some people.
Yeah, and I totally get it, because even when we started, we had a coach, and our coach was, he was helping implement that into Harley Davidson International and Southwest Air. Like, we're talking
Right.
big players who are also book management companies like Netflix. There wasn't that much structure to it. It was a story that people were interested in, that worked successful, and they didn't really have a method of coaching. So, we had a coach, and we just kind of drifted in. It wasn't an all or nothing. We just kind of created a budget, created a scoreboard. We tied rewards to the scoreboard, and then we kind of just taught the business literacy through an organic approach,
Right.
just participating. It's come a long way.
Sure.
About 6 years ago, I became Canada's first licensed green business coach, and the only one until this date from the green industry.
Amazing.
And we have playbooks, like real playbooks. Okay? First set is steps 1 through 10. Let's go through that. That's 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, depending on where you're at. Second one could be another 10 steps. You go another 6 year or in perpetuity, because it's a constant thing. Just like you do high involvement planning or strategic planning
Right.
on an annual basis. And it was just based around the philosophy that the best way to run a business and get buy-in from people was giving them a say in how the business is run.
Right. Yeah, I think when people start to really understand how the numbers work, and I mean, it's something, I wouldn't say that we're open book at Muskoka Landscapers, but we're certainly sharing all of our numbers, and we have a team of people that work on the annual budget, we present it, and it certainly helps create more accountability, and people are more interested in how they can affect it and how it can benefit them. Maybe you can touch on, you mentioned there that there were some rewards,
Yeah.
as you hit certain goals, but what did that look like, or what kind of were the rewards?
There's one step, we will say step 7 is provide a stake in the outcome. So, and that comes in more than one way. There's shout outs, it's celebrations, it's playing mini games, which are 60 to 90 day improvement challenges that typically have a non-monetary reward, but a fun reward, a memorable one,
Okay.
a culture-based one, to target a current weakness, a threat, or a lack of a system creation, or a big opportunity that you might not have put enough focus on had you not had a target with a scoreboard and everybody involved in creating it.
Right.
So those are big ones. Other than that, then the biggest one is profit sharing.
Right.
So we do profit gain sharing, meaning that we have to have a threshold of profit
Right.
before we can share.
Right.
Because if you say profit sharing, people are assuming that you share once you get profit.
Right.
But gain sharing is saying we need a threshold, we need a level wheelbarrow.
The company needs to make a
Sure,
certain
because
amount, yes.
Cash doesn't stop at the end of the P&L.
Right.
There's still the balance sheet items.
Absolutely.
Right. So we create a budget just like you do. It's estimated profit. We subtract our balance sheet items. We create a threshold. We say this is this year based on our objectives. This is the threshold we can start sharing. And we have 10 levels of that. An hourly employee in our company can earn up to 15% of their gross income.
Okay.
So it's
Good number.
It just graduated, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a month of work,
Right.
right? So in the seasonal
Big
business.
difference.
And so last year was great. The season went long. Guys were motivated. I think it was a level 8.
Right.
So 12%.
Fantastic. Yeah.
So it's meaningful enough, not just because it's a check, it's because they beat the standards they set.
Right.
And when people set their own targets, they generally hit them.
Right.
Is what we've noticed.
Right.
As opposed to me telling them what targets they need to hit.
Right.
And them not having a clear understanding of any aspect of it, really.
Right. Yeah, it's so important to show them the way. Show them how it looks. Show them, what you need from them.
We gamify it
Yeah.
with real scoreboards, like, floor to ceiling, 15 feet wide of various scoreboards.
Right. Yeah, I've seen photos of the shop and some videos. It's amazing.
It's fun.
Yeah. I guess to close out on the open book, what would you suggest to people that are interested in it? What's the first step?
To realize that open book finance and just reporting the numbers is not the end all of open book management at all.
Right.
It might be a form of it, but that is the most common thing I find. Well, I tell my people the numbers, but I still don't get it. I said, did you hear what you said? You're telling them.
Right.
How about they tell you?
Right.
How are we supposed to know? Well, it starts with the belief that people are smart enough to do it. And I've seen the work you guys do, and I've seen the work my team does, and other people. If they can do that,
Right.
they can learn the basics of financials and how it affects their outcome, and they can make better decisions based on that knowledge. So it starts with that firm belief. But there's Greenscaper is a lot about open book management.
Right.
One of the reasons I have agreed and not just agree, but
Right.
I'm positive and happy to be a part of it.
Right.
Because it aligns with my values. The first book was Breaking the Business. And then there was Get in the Game, which is the how-to.
Yes.
And those are just wonderful stories about, how being inclusive and having people participate and appealing to their higher level of intellect. And like we said, with every set of hands, you got a free brain.
Yes.
Don't waste that.
Yes.
And those are just good ways to get in. And of course, if you want to hire a coach, even better. The coach has already been through it.
Right.
They can streamline things.
Yeah, I think it's something that's really undervalued in our industry.
Yeah, it's coming around, I think.
It's certainly, people are starting to be more, not necessarily push, but understand the benefits. And it's something I, personally wish I would have started a lot earlier as well.
Yeah, and I still probably don't do enough of it. But
Right.
I get a lot of my coaching just from doing this,
Yes.
reading books, and
These
just
events.
always staying active in my mind and humble enough to realize I don't know shit.
Right.
Well,
Right.
I know it's every year, honest to God, every winter I get into it probably more than I should. And I say, I doubled my business acumen this winter. And I think maybe that's going to be the end.
Right.
Every single year I say the same thing because there's always just that much more to know about how to treat people, and there's just a lot to know in business.
There is.
And
And it's funny, from the Skoka Landscaper standpoint, we've been working a lot on a lot of the things that we've been talking about the past couple days at the Landscaper event, probably for the past 2 winters. And I have a list of at least 60 or 70 things, little things to add or tweak based on what we've already set up. And I think those are just like the golden nuggets of events like this. And maybe we can touch a little bit on how Landscaper is fairly new.
Yeah.
But LMN was around has been around for a long time. I'm really enjoying the new people that are there. How did that affect your business?
LMN?
When LMN and now with Landscaper, do you think that's something that the Creative Roots will utilize as well?
I'm certainly pushing them to that route. There's a lot of things that are coming through Landscaper, like how they've tied the AI in. I don't even think we've seen or even scratched the surface of seeing what's coming out.
I don't think 90% of the industry doesn't have a clue.
No, and I based on some conversations I've had with Mark, come summer, we're going to get a glimpse of what's actually coming out because, like I said, there's just so much more help. So
Right.
we got this help,
Right.
we got Mark's help, we got other people in the room's help. Now we got AI.
Right.
It's off the charts. I'm addicted to it.
Yeah. Well, I think if you're not, you're going to get left behind.
Yeah.
And some people don't want to hear that, but it's definitely a real thing. And if you haven't used it, watch some YouTube videos about it because it's incredible what you can do with it.
Oh, just embrace it.
And it's only going to get better.
Yeah. I want to feel smarter. 100%. Here I am on my computer and I have something that can help me solve a problem.
Right.
Tenth of a second, even if it's something I'm not good at.
Right.
I'm not good at drafting proposals. I've never been, it's just not my thing. I could shovel like a madman.
Right.
Like drafting proposals is my thing, but 60 seconds, you can have a proposal that's 80% where you want it to get.
Right.
So, I'm a big supporter of that.
Yeah, it doesn't take long. Was it, as far as Element goes with your business, was it something that you just knew you needed, or like how did you go about getting involved with it?
Right. So this day I still don't have a login personally.
All right.
That was strategic. Sometimes when I get in the middle of something, it slows down because no times.
Right.
But the team has embraced it, and of course, what I really loved the most about LMN was their ears. They listened to the customer, and they would make changes like that. Right. And they have made a lot of positive changes. The crew apps, just all those nuances that you can't think about. Right. We had Steve Jobs wouldn't put anything out until it was perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, but he was 100 million behind. By the time he launched it,
Yes.
it was overdue. And then you had the other one. He said, let's put it out. It's pretty good with beta testing, and it will allow our users to tell us, and then we'll fix it fast.
Right.
I think that was the element approach.
Yes.
And to me, it's worked.
Yeah, I agree. And we were fortunate. We had Mark and a couple of the team up to our office 3 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
And we spent 2.5 days. We had some other local landscapers that use Element come in, and really did some R&D about what we liked, and it was amazing how much we didn't even know we weren't using.
Well, I fear that's probably the same thing.
Yes.
Creative roots, and so the problem is a curse of knowledge.
Yes.
You
it's a good way to put it.
Yeah, you just think you know enough to be dangerous to yourself, when realistically, I don't know if we've ever scratched the surface.
Right.
You know, people will say, "Oh, you're wildly successful." And a lot of standards, that's true. People tell me that too. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, there's it never ends.
No,
it never ends, and I think that's the biggest thing, and it's certainly for a large majority of the industry, it's an important thing to realize, because I think when we're young entrepreneurs and we came from the field, or we have new businesses, it's so hard to convince yourself that you need that support in one way or the other, like to become a better leader and all the things that you need to do to have a better business.
Yeah, well, you would spend $50,000. Like, talk about coaching.
Right.
You'd spend $50,000 on a machine.
Yes.
You'd spend $50,000 on an employee, or less, or more, whatever.
Sure.
But to spend $50,000 on a coach, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, you don't believe in yourself enough, because realistically, well, and I'm not saying every coach is going to deliver, but for the most part, if you're executing on the things you're learning, whether it's we can call this a coach, we can call this a vent coach.
Totally.
And if you're taking this and executing, the return on investment doesn't even touch the excavator wouldn't even come close.
Right.
One employee wouldn't even come close. This is the stuff that gets you, that saves that employee who was going to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And because he's there, he's exciting 2 more people, and you got 3 people
Right.
that want to be a part of it. Then you got 2 more excavators, because those 2 guys need it. So that is the foundation of it. Not like Mark said, there was not an operating system designed for the green industry.
Right.
And the open book management and Great Game is arguably, in my mind, was the pinnacle of operating systems, above others like US is scaling up. Those are great too. Wealthy landscape, all that stuff is good information. But now one's focused on the green industry, and it's going to make a big difference.
Yes. You know, I think all that stuff is so contagious too, like once you bring it into the company.
Yeah.
And I've always used the analogy, you talked about coaching. I struggled for so many years to hire a bookkeeper.
Yeah.
You know, my wife and I did it for so long. We were doing it at night. I don't think as well at night. I know my prime time is morning, taken away from family time and all the things that you do as a young entrepreneur. But man, when I look back, like even to have hired somebody for 2 or 3 days a week, that would have gave me, and likely they would have done twice as much work as I did.
Yeah.
More accurately.
I had someone, you know, doing it out of your house. I had someone early on.
Yeah.
I love the numbers, so I was never trying to stray away from it. I needed to know, and I was obsessed with it. But, you know, you're doing it out of your house, so she's coming through your house, you know, in the basement.
Oh, yeah.
You start there, but, you know, there's hiring out fractionally for certain roles makes so much sense.
Yeah. Yeah, even if you think you don't need them, yeah. Right? There's so many opportunities or options to get support.
Well, they're professionals.
Yes.
Yeah. They're not doing their own landscape.
Right. Back when you were at that $1 million mark, which again is the majority of the industry, you know, looking back at it now, like what were some of the things that you wish you knew then, or maybe moves you might have made at that stage that, you know, if you could go back, you would go back and change?
Yeah, and as much as I could say I was into continuous growth and stuff like that, there was definitely times where I stopped that.
Right.
And that was a big mistake, because I always said, like, my behavior at times was not good. And that scared off a lot of good people. And I thought to myself, well, that doesn't seem to be my nature. I said, well, you're working unnatural. And as a result, you've got an unnatural, like you're living unnatural.
Right.
Really, you're forcing yourself through it. And so listening to your body is a big one. I worked through a herniated disc. I've had surgery on both shoulders. If you have a very supportive family like I did, ask yourself if they're too supportive.
Right.
Because no news is not always good news.
Right.
And,
Right.
You know, and so
Yeah, you got to be reflective.
yeah, you do, and that definitely, you know, played a toll on my family. Fortunately, they're amazing, and still a very close family. But if it could have been any other way, any other day.
Right.
100%. So listen to your body, get some help, read the books, come to the events, work hard. Nothing comes quickly. You know, I guess you can refine quickly.
Right.
But I think as a rule, it takes a lot longer to create something great than we believe it should.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that it's been a good message at the event that, don't feel like you're behind because you're hearing all this information,
Yeah.
right? There's time. There's time to implement. The move is to start implementing.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the same question, but more at like the $3 million mark, because I think, Mark Bradley often talks about the ones and the threes.
Yeah.
1 million, 3 million, 10 million. What do you think are the important keys when you get to that sort of sweet spot of 3 million? Because I'm a big believer that once you hit 3, it's quite easily to double.
Yeah.
It doesn't require a ton more overhead, requires good systems and teams, all that sort of stuff. But what are your thoughts on, best things to do when you're starting to get close to that 3 million mark?
Well, making sure you didn't get there based on sheer incentive.
Right.
And that you actually did have, you got there because of that.
Right.
And there's some leading indicators. You got to 3 million and you still got a 50% staff turnover.
Right.
Don't go to 6.
Yeah.
Don't
pump the brakes.
Pump the brakes.
Yeah.
And look back. Like I said, I look back at our 2008 operations manual, all on paper, right? And then it wasn't long after that we did a digital one, basically in our intranet site. But the people development has bar none been the biggest differentiator with us.
Right.
People stay longer. We have no turnover, basically. I think we have 5 people with their name on post-it notes underneath who wants to be the next owner.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
So it's like, okay, people want to own the company.
Right.
From within, okay. Back when I was running it like an animal, no one would want to live like that.
Right.
Unless they were insane or just wanted more money. The systems are really important and really focusing on people development. I like the forward-looking organizational chart exercise. So if we've got a well-written vision and it's 5 to 10 years out, we can say, okay, it's 2024. That's what we did last fall. This is our org chart. Here's 2030.
Yes.
This is it. And we put 2025 right next to 2024. Everybody in the company takes a name, posts it, puts it in the position they want to be in. And if it's the same position as last year, it's okay. There's not a lot of gaps to fill there. Okay, but if it's one level here or there or a different position, okay, that's where you want to be. Now we know what we have to do to fill the skills gap. And so then we put in the personal development track per individual. And that's how we approach it.
Right.
And it's always focused on the longer term because we have a clear idea of what that company would look like at a certain period of time.
Right.
That's what a vision is, as opposed to a mission, which is something that's forever.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I think like we talked about earlier, like being able to show the way or the path makes such a difference for everybody as well.
Yes.
Let's touch on culture a little bit, because culture is one of those things that everybody hears people talk about. It's something that everybody has different ways of trying to create it. I think there's many ways, but it's an interesting thing when you come to an event like this, because a lot of our conversations the past 3 days have been about culture and team and creating leaders and creating growth opportunities. But what are your biggest takeaways with culture? Because I don't, you can't sum it up in 2 or 3 things.
No.
It's more of like a overhanging motto or vision.
Yeah.
But what are your
Well, I think a lot of people, culture is whatever you think it is whatever it is. But I think a lot of people stop at just, how much we hug,
Right.
or stuff like that, where I want to build a profitable culture. I don't think that's a bad thing. I want to build a culture of partnership. And so these are all things that we work into the notion of culture. And it's totally possible. You just have to focus on it. Whenever I coach a team, I'll do my initial on-site. We'll all stand in a circle, we'll have basketball or something, and we will pass it around. So tell me the best thing about your first job. And they'll say it. Pass it to the next guy.
Right.
Write them all down. We're having common themes here. It's a learning environment. The work was fun and interesting. Okay, we're starting to define what the culture is of what people love amongst the business right here. So we should do more of that. Next question is, was there something that would have made it better? Now we're creating an inspirational culture. We're like, I wonder if we can introduce that. I wish I would have made more money. Okay, well let's figure out how to make more money or get more hugs, whatever that might be, right? So, and then monitoring it measuring it. We measure quarterly with five touch points on the employee journey and satisfaction. And owners are included in that because they're employees too.
Yes.
Also annually, we're measuring the culture based on what people's understanding of the financial, the marketplace, the operational, and the people aspects are. And so we will see the gaps there. We'll work into our training. We'll drip into our training, which is very informal. Yes, it'll be 15 minutes at our monthly wide company huddle. Aspects that support that.
Right. Yeah, that's all good stuff. All good stuff. Again, I think everybody struggles with it. Certainly once they get to that $1.5 million, $2 million. When you're under $1 million and you've got 5 or 6 teams, you're generally pretty close with everybody. Right? So it's a little bit easier. Yeah, I think as you grow, then it needs to be something that really has some effort.
I think there's one easy indicator. If you're not happy, if there's one person that isn't happy, then you better ask yourself why.
Right.
There was lots of days I wasn't happy. My friend says, you're making as much as this is back in the mid 2000s. You're making as much as a doctor makes. Why am I miserable?
Well, and this is like where I was going to go next, and I mean that's an important thing to recognize too. And again, it's come up in conversation the past 3 days. It's like there are great opportunities in our industry, but there's also this impact of seasonal work and the timelines and the effort that goes in, and customer demands and all these things, seasonal teams and all of it. But what are some of the things that you do more like on a personal level, to keep yourself kind of focused? And you like to fish a lot.
Yeah.
We both like to fish a lot. But do you love to read? Fitness? What are your kind of go-tos to kind of maintain a healthy brain?
But don't look too close to my fitness. It's kind of falling
off. It's a long winter.
It's falling off the map here a bit. But I just really enjoy being active. I don't mind going to the gym, but I just don't do it.
Right.
So I live next door to our facility. It's a farm.
Right.
And so you can see me over there any day. I sweep.
Always something to do, I'm sure.
Yeah. I sweep.
Right.
And someone will say, why is the CEO sweeping? I said, leave him alone. It's not just sweeping. There's something else going on up there. I'm not the CEO anymore, but jumping in and out of the skid steer, helping do stuff. So I stay active that way. I love fishing. As you know, I go to Mexico for
majority of the winter.
Well, for minimum 2 months.
Yeah.
Typically, I've been down there as long as 5, and I've done that for the last 11 years. And so
you just find that bit of a reset.
Yeah. Well, there's far less distractions. Squirrel, what?
You're right.
It's that I'm that guy. I'm not hands-on. Then I can be that person. So I don't have to walk out my door and see all the things. I always say I walk out any door, I'm like, I see 4 years worth of work here, no matter where it is.
Right.
And I can't let it go.
Right.
So getting away from it, even my morning routines, a few days a week, just sitting in Starbucks with my headphones on, I can plow through needed work. But if I was at home, I got to talk to Jimmy the cat, and I got to, and then something's happening.
Yeah, distractions are
So
big.
I have my own little routine. We all fall into it.
Right.
My suggestion to others is just recognize what makes you feel at ease. Just do a little bit more of that.
Right. Yeah, and I agree, and I think it's a big thing to recognize. And whether you're young or old, or at $1 million or 10, those are important things to take care of yourself and your family, obviously. But creating time for yourself is a big one.
Yeah.
And it's a hard one when you're the guy.
Yeah. That's why I'm glad I'm not the guy.
You're right. Yeah, and it's an incredible story. I mean, I love what you've done there. You and I have talked about it a lot, kind of off camera as well. I think it's a super motivating story, and I think it's a great opportunity for a lot of landscape companies to move in that same direction.
I encourage it. I was, from the reading I did, Wealthy Land, The Wealthy Barber, all the models, and the E-Myth is you need to start with the end in mind. What's that going to look like? And then, once you herniate a disc, or you're broke and you realize there might be an end here at some point. It could be sooner, it could be later. But what's it going to look like? And if you're trying to build something of value, asset sale is a dip.
Right. I agree.
You got some used iron, and it's not worth a lot. And it might be enough. Maybe you were really smart with your money and disciplined, and you bought 7 houses, you got rented, you're doing all this thing. But when I was thinking about selling, I thought, okay, third party. So we went down that route a little bit, did some research, Yeah, I've been talking business with people I'm in business with for so long with Oakwood Management that bringing in a third-party person means they were as smart as we, Kevin. I don't know if they could have kept that culture alive. The people in the business knew more about the business aspect of it than the person coming in, I believe.
Right.
And I said, plus they didn't help me get here. So these are the deserving people. I heard over the years, like, I couldn't work for a company that didn't operate this way anymore.
Right.
I couldn't go back to a way.
It'd be really tough.
It would be tough.
Yeah. It'd be tough on the team too.
Yeah. Because they have a voice and it's heard. Some stuff gets implemented, some doesn't. Just like my ideas.
Right.
And so we have adult conversations about the realities of the business. The financials tell us the story. The numbers are stories about people. I don't know. It just seems so much common sense.
Right.
So I just found a way to let them buy in.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's funny, I was going to end with one question, but I actually have two. And I feel like we could probably sit here all day and talk about ideas and things that have worked and not worked.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll do that again. Sure. Being an entrepreneur, you touched on real estate investments and things like that. I mean, I feel like that's one of the best things that's happened with my life, having a successful business. It's created opportunities for other things, whether it's real estate or commercial rentals and rental yard space, like all these things come up. Can you maybe touch on that? Because I feel like it's something we talk about at the Wealthy Landscaper as often as we can, and it's a hard thing to educate people on, but it certainly is it's an item that with cash flow, with running a business and learning about cash flow and interest rates and loans and all those sorts of things, the better at that you get, the more opportunities you create.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I always said, like, I got really good at making money, but learning what to do with it wasn't
right.
It was a whole nother skill. And so I listened a lot. I was good with my hands, so buying something of this and creating value in it, selling it for more was a very easy thing for me to do. I'm not afraid of the work.
Right.
To a fault, I'm sure. So we just bought a barber shop a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And that was failing, and we brought that back up to where it was successful. Sold it to the manager.
Okay.
Just last October, and real estate thing's always been good for me.
Yes.
But the markets are changing, and now maybe it's time to do something a little different. Mine was residential, so bought the facility we're on. That's 6 acres. Bought the house across the street. Bought another one out in another area. We subdivided the property, so there's 5 properties.
Yes.
And that will serve me well. But you have to be disciplined with your money.
Yes.
I didn't take every dime I made and ran off. I didn't live the high life. No.
Right.
No. When I bought the first boat a couple of years ago, it's a nice boat.
Right.
I'm happy with that boat.
Right. Right.
That's just the same amount of fish, which is pretty much nothing. But we tried.
It's not about the fish.
No, we tried.
Okay, all right, last one. And this one always sounds a little bit generic, but I think it's important. The years that you've been in business and the education that you've taught yourself, that you've learned from others, what would be like one either piece of advice or great tip that you would give everybody knowing what you know now?
When I found something I believed in, I took in a lot from all the different sources, the cassette tapes. Nothing was on 8-track.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you really dated yourself.
Yeah, and I found something I really was into, like the Oakwood Management. I said I have to clear the clutter, a bunch of noise. I'm just going to focus on this. I carried that book. I spilled so many lunches on it, and it just, whether I was reading it or not, it just went wherever I went, and I was focused on it. I probably missed out on some other opportunities to learn something good, but that wasn't the point. I stuck with it no matter what. And there was times where good people, smart people, said, I don't think this is working. I don't know what's not working. If it's not working, look in the mirror. Like, that's us.
Right.
We're not providing enough education for it to make it work. Because if you're appealing to people, Great Game will say it's money, it's people, it's both. If you can work that into your whole philosophy, how could it not be right? Right? So, just stick with it. You Leanscaper, don't get caught up in what I'm saying right now. Because Leanscaper's a great platform. Just take it. Just plow, run through it. Don't think it's going to happen by tomorrow.
think that's a great way to end it. I think that's a great tip. I think it's a great bit of advice for everybody to listen to. Thanks for doing this today. It was awesome. Perfect place to do it.
Yeah.
It's nice sitting out here in the warm weather.
Yeah.
So thanks very much, and see you next time.